Okay kids, today we're cooking gnocchi. There are two types of gnocchi. There is gnocchi made with potatoes and there is gnocchi made with ricotta, which is cheese, a soft cheese. For you, I've chosen the ricotta gnocchi because they're easy to make. There's a bit more complexity with potato gnocchi. The first time I made it, the gnocchi just dissolved in a pot of water and I was mortified. So let's do the ricotta stuff. This one, the ricotta, you buy at the supermarket or wherever, and it comes in a basket like this, so see the water can drip off. And I've chosen 1 kilogram. Now that sounds like a lot, but they're so yummy, you probably want to eat them for lunch and for dinner. They also keep in the fridge on a cloth for a couple of days, and then they start to discolor. But really, once you cook them and put the sauce over, the discoloration is not really important. So there's no point undertaking this project for just a handful. Now let's do a kilo. What you need for a kilo is the ricotta. You need 120 grams thereabout of flour, plain flour, because sometimes the ricotta is a bit wetter than other times. So these are sort of guidelines. Then you, with experience, will see if you need more or less flour. The trick is to have something that holds together with as little flour as possible, so you get the magic softness of ricotta gnocchi. Couple of eggs, and about, again, it's an approximation, 130 grams of grated good cheese. Always good ground cheese. Now, if you have a mullen, which is that instrument that goes around and presses things through thin holes, fine, then you can do it very quickly. Otherwise, you have to patiently put it through a potato ricer. See, which you'll also need for the potato gnocchi, by the way. So you place it in there. It's a bit fiddly, but it's not an impossible thing to achieve, right? And then this will make it fluffy. You can't just mix the ricotta with flour and egg from that state. That is just simply too hard. And here is the last little bit. A little bit of elbow grease will do. Okay. Next, couple of eggs. Always be sure you don't drop some shells in there. You can do it separately on a little bowl or something, just to make sure you don't introduce some eggshell, some flour, and I'll start with a spoon. And don't forget 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt in 1 kilo of the mix. This job is best done the day before, and then let the mix rest in the fridge. In fact, if you're wondering what this is the one I made before, the proverbial one, but not for convenience, because it actually resting amalgamates all these ingredients very well through that process of resting in the fridge, and easier to work the day after when you're actually going to cook them and serve them. So it feels to me, even under the spoon, I put my hand in there, there's nothing like feeling things. It seems to me that I probably put enough flour. Cheese doesn't matter so much because cheese is, it's not as dry obviously as flour, so it incorporates well with the ricotta. By its nature, it's not, it's not dry, it's quite moist, but you have to be careful with the flour. Okay, now I'll stick my hand in it. It's wonderful. I can feel that there is the right amount of moisture there. Remember, if it is too wet when you come to cooking the gnocchi, and you can always add a little bit more flour, but it's best to be right from the start. And never go and cook the gnocchi for dinner or lunch before testing them. So in other words, once I've made it like that, I have a little pot of water and I tested. I made 3 or 4. If you see they're fraying around the edges, stop and put some more flour in it. Then you can be sure that everything will proceed smoothly. This is quite simple. You get the drift. There's one thing I neglected to say. It's an optional one for a good classical flavor. If you want to put a little nutmeg, oh, my fingers are terrible. It's kind of like a nut. You can buy it already ground up, or you can grate it yourself. I've got grubby fingers, but you grate it and in there, mix it in. I assure you that it's in the other batch. So there it is. You bring it all together like this, and tomorrow when we come to use it, you mix it again like this. So that goes away. Do it neatly. Put it in a container with Glad wrap. Put it in the fridge, and tomorrow it comes out like this. There it is. I met a young fella out in front of the cafe called Jackson, and Jackson must have eaten this gnocchi somewhere, and he said, "Can you please make them for me? Can you show me how to make gnocchi?" So Jackson, this is for you. Okay, so you've got the prepared mix. There it is. Then with a blunt knife, if you're working on a metal surface, you know, you're not going to use your best knife. Just get an old blunt instrument. Cut a little piece like that. With both your hands, you'll roll it out like a sausage. And see how it holds together, and see how easy it is to manipulate because it's at the rest. Okay? Some people like to go quite thick, some people go thin, but I think somewhere in the middle is just as good. At the end, you get rid of that bit because it's ugly. See? Both ends. Get rid of that and put it back into your mix. And then you chop them. So when you are preparing them, make sure you have a lovely tea towel or a clean cloth at any rate, and you can lift it and drop it straight into the boiling water. And even if they stick sometimes, you know, all sorts of things happen when you cook. And if your gnocchi are stuck accidentally to the cloth because you've been too slow, it's a bit hot and things are melting around you, just immerse the whole cloth into the boiling pot of water and shake it a couple of times. Everything falls into the water and Bob's your uncle. All right? Here I've got a portion and it's ready to go into the water, which has got salt as usual. This is like a pasta. Your water must be salty or else it doesn't taste very good. Best if you have a spatula like this. I'm sure there is someone around the house, so it's easy to transport them from the bench to the pot. Oops, this one wants to escape. The gnocchi will be ready when they float to the surface. You let them float for a little bit, extract them and put them directly into your sauce. Now, what sauce? The sky is the limit. At its most basic level, it's butter. Butter, you can add a herb like sage would be ideal. If you don't use butter, you can use tomato sauce or something else which happens to be accidentally in that pot. I'll show you in a minute what it is. Let's concentrate on this. So you dissolve some butter. You can even brown the butter if you like. You got to be very careful because between browning and burning there's a very short distance, but that's a lovely way because the nutty taste of almost burnt butter is just delicious with cheesy things. They've come to the surface and look how beautiful they look. They're not breaking, are they? Look at that. I mean, it's all dairy. It's a festival of dairy. If you're allergic to flour, forget about it. If you don't like cheese, forget about it. But for everyone else, let me tell you, this is a beautifully delicate dish. Look, the butter is a little bit burned. being a festival of dairy, you add some more cheese. I can tell you that the perfume of this, I wouldn't call it, it's a perfume, it's not even an aroma. It's beautiful, beautiful, and it's really the best example of comfort food. Look, it looks fiddly, but once you get the hang of it, it's very, very easy to achieve. Now, for the adults, maybe add those who like pepper, not necessarily adults, but those who like pepper, a nice crank of fresh pepper, and you are in heaven. So you've seen the gnocchi with butter sauce at its basic level, but I happen to be cooking here a wheelbarrow of shank, ossobuco, beef sheen, if you like, and I use it mostly for a sauce, not so much for the meat, because it varies in quality. So I get a little bit of this gorgeous, gorgeous sauce, still with a little bit of fat, and I'll put it in there, and the gnocchis are up. See, there's still a little bit of water there, but it will be easily absorbed by the gnocchi. And here we go. The gnocchi with the ossobuco sauce. It could be a bolognese, but this is so delicious because you got a concentration of the beef flavor, and it coats those gnocchi, look at it, with a beautiful sheen. Again, another very hearty, beautiful dish on a cold day. Ciao.